Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Texas AEL Manager Mondays. Today our topic is ESL for Professionals. It's more than just learning English. Our presenter today is Christina Mason with the Tarrant County Board in Fort Worth. And my name is Olga Escamilla, and I am your host. And we also have Tracy Hendricks and Kelly Carnline as our moderators. So welcome. So let's welcome our presenter, Christina Mason. Christina, again, is Tarrant County Adult Education and Literacy, and she's been with them since 2016 in Career Pathways. She worked with Workforce Solutions since 2006 in delivering services to job seekers and employers, case management, employment services, and business services. She with special workforce development grant-funded programs for reentry and industry-recognized credentials. And prior to 2006, she was an Eligibility Specialist 3 with Texas Health and Human Services, Commission for SNAP, Medicaid, and TANF programs. So Christina comes to us with a lot of experience, a lot of information, and we welcome her today. And remember, if you have any questions now, you can put them in the chat box, but I'm going to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Christina. So welcome, Christina. And take it away.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're going to be covering ESL for professionals. And first off, who's here and what's your role? And also, how familiar are you with foreign credential evaluation services? If you can please put your answers in the chat pod, that'll be great.
We have, I'll go ahead and read. We want to be sure we read everything in the chat box for those who are going to be attending later. So Mike Sines is the lead teacher. Kristen Karsten is the ESL for Professionals instructor, first year in the position, not familiar with evaluation services. Thank you for joining us. We have James Benson, Career Navigator, only slightly familiar with Credential Evaluation Services. John Stevenson with TWC. Mike Sines, lead teacher. Did I already read Mike? But he's familiar with Foreign Credential Evaluation. Viola Thomason, Instructional Coach. Charlotte Farmer, Career Navigator. Marilyn Ventura, Educational Programs Compliance Manager, familiar with Evaluation Services. Sherry Smith-Dennis, somewhat. She's a director. She's somewhat familiar. Jaja is adult ESL teacher, familiar with foreign credentials. And John is somewhat familiar. He used to work for F1 students who needed credential evaluation. And then we have Rosa Hidalgo, adult ed instructor. Deshelle is an IET program manager, a little familiar. Oh, it's going really fast. Mary Frances, PJC, Paris Junior College, AEL instructor, compliance. Diana Fortin, Workforce Advisor, AEL, and Maria Abajo, ESL Supervisor, somewhat familiar. So thank you all for sharing. We're going to go ahead and let Christina move forward. Thank you.
Now, I want to start off with the definition. What exactly is being called an internationally trained English language learner? Now, that is the actual term, the definition of it right here, highlighted from our AEL letter 0117, page 6. This states that an internationally trained English language learner is a professional, is an ELL who is a professional with a degree or credential from his or her native country. Now, here in Workforce Solutions for Tarrant County, we use the term ESL for professionals instead of internationally trained English language learner, simply because that's kind of a little bit of a mouthful. It's really long. So ESL for professionals sounds a lot quicker to say. And also, it has attracted students' interest when they hear it. It's something different. And so that also brings up the question for you guys, what do you use? What do you use to call your internationally trained English language learner class? And what are some challenges and successes that you've encountered in implementing this class? If you could please put your answers in the chat pod, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, John. ESL for Professionals, John Stevenson says. Michael Sayens, ESL for Professionals as well. And Marilyn says ESL for professionals as well, too. So this is a general consensus that everyone has been calling it ESL for professionals and have decided not to use the internationally trained English language learner. So it's awesome. And what are some challenges and successes that you've encountered? Thank you, James Benson. ESL for professionals, we're just starting first orientations this week. Good luck, Mr. Benson. And Zaza, ESL for professionals, she states, yes. And Rosa, ESL for professionals. And Kristen, ESL for professionals. And Maria de Jesus, ESL for professionals. Thank you. Well, I know for us, our challenges was first figuring out how to call this class, the name, and also how to build it. What are some of the components that we were looking for, because this class is different from a traditional ESL class, and making sure that we've explored all of the options and incorporating them into our lessons and design of the class itself. So that was some of our challenges and also our success because of the design itself. And I'm going to show you those, what we included, as well as samples of our syllabuses. Now, information to know. I'm going back to our AEL Policy Letter 0117, and this one is entitled Implementing Programs, Activities, and Services for English Language Learners. Now, this is from January 25th, 2017. Now, I'm not going to read this entire section here, but I wanted to highlight the section here that says AEL grantees may consider credential evaluation, authentication, and validation services as part of educational and career counseling on a case-by-case basis. Now, that's the first part, and I wanted to stress that, and I'll go into why. And also here at the very end, ELLs is not consistent with the program intent. So providing these services all across your ESL classes is not the intent. And again, I'm going to go back into why. And I see some comments here, some feedback, thank you, about some challenges as well as successes. Christopher Sheffield says, as for successes, having students come in who needed something at this level but didn't think it was out there. That's a success. And then Maria de Jesus Arojo says, some of our students come in with a mindset of just wanting to learn English, and they don't want to do anything else but learn English. It's sometimes hard to convince them that it'll be learning English as well as helping them with their current credentials. Thank you, Maria. That's absolutely on target. Thank you. Now, for some of you, if you're not having to do this yourself, but there's also the TWC survey, and it's called Services for Internationally Trained ELL Professionals. Now, this is a survey that you have to submit to TWC before the class can start. And so these are some key areas on the survey. Here in Tarrant County, we do, at the board, we do the survey. Our students who are enrolled in ESL professionals are the only ones that are offered this service, the foreign credentials. And it's not mandatory for those students to submit their foreign credentials. It's just encouraged. We don't want to mandate something where it might be a little difficult for those students to gather all their documents. And so that's why I went back to why it's a case-by-case. It's not across all ESL classes, just for ESL for professionals enrolled in that class. And then also, students are selected based on the type of degree they possess and how it's related to a career cluster. And just for your information about Workforce Solutions, we're also the grantee, the fiscal agent, and the lead agency for AEL here in Tarrant County for all of our providers. And so on this survey, that's why the survey comes to us, to the board, for us to review for rigor, as well as to review for accuracy and integrity. So these key areas is what I found to be the most interesting and also the most challenging, because here it says one of the first questions that comes up is select the career cluster, in which the internationally trained ELL has a degree. So this can be difficult because it's not tracked anywhere or asked anywhere else other than on the survey. And so what we've done here in Tarrant County was we included it in our student enrollment form as well as in our ITEC plan. The other thing is, the other considerations are these last two, is which types of services that you're going to be providing? What other organizations are you going to be partnering with to deliver these additional services if you're going to be doing that? And then also describe how the result will support the career pathway. Now, we understand that there are some benefits. Many of you are familiar or somewhat familiar with foreign credential evaluation services, and we know how difficult it is for students to not find employment because their credentials are not recognized by employers. So we know that that is a huge barrier for them to pursue their career pathway. So when we were talking earlier about the career clusters and how it's not identified anywhere really other than in their TWC survey, and it's not in teams. So the question comes up, how are you tracking students' foreign degrees and what career cluster it corresponds to? And then also, what tools or resources are you using in order to help track this information? And then finally, did you know that WIOA Title I, which is the Workforce Center programs, they can pay for foreign credential evaluation services for those co-enrolled participants? I know my consortium did not know that, and when we found that out, it helped. So if you could please put your answers in the chat pod, that would be great to hear and share.
So we'll go ahead and wait a little bit because I know that that's a lot of questions asked, and hopefully people are typing furiously to get started in the chat box. And I appreciate you sharing that the WIOA Title I Workforce Centers can help pay for those students that are co-enrolled, because this helps adult ed programs save that money to help pay for their credential. So we're still waiting. I know that people are typing ferociously, furiously. So Maria says we currently use our Pearl to find out if our students have foreign credentials. Okay. Mm-hmm. Violetta says, I'm pretty new at my job, so I'm not sure how we are currently tracking students. It would be great to hear from others how they do it in their programs. Very true, Violetta. And it's good for programs to share throughout the state so that we aren't recreating the wheel. James says they're at the point of verifying and correctly assessing foreign educational degrees and licenses before beginning to track the tracking process. So they're looking, for tools beyond spreadsheets. I don't know about WIOA Title I supporting the credential. Very good. So we learn something new every day. Kristen says, I'm just asking for students to submit whatever they have, transcript, degree, documentation. Not sure what this means for number 2. And no, I did not know for number 3. Thank you. Maria says our PD coordinator uses the information locally and runs reports constantly to filter out students with credentials. And Violetta says, no, I didn't know the WIA Title Money financial support. Yes, and that is for students that are co-enrolled. That means that they would have to qualify for those WIA Title I services. But yet, that is one of the criteria that we need to be collaborating with Workforce and having our students co-enroll if they're eligible. Okay, I'm going to read one more, and then we'll go ahead and move on. And somebody, Jaja says, I did not know. Since it's our first time to have the program, and Katie, I just asked the students. I'm happy to know WIA title so that she can ask them for help. Okay, go ahead, Christina. We'll let you go ahead and move forward.
Thank you, everyone, for your responses. Yes, it is kind of hard to track this information outside of teams. You have the information of tracking students with a degree, but not the information about the actual type of degree, the name of the degree, and how it corresponds to a stock code and SIP code. So you don't have that information readily available to you, so you have to go find that information to supplement it and to build your class. And so I want to show you a few of those resources that I have and what I found and what I've shared with our career pathway navigators, and as well as a tracking sheet as well. Now, I would say this, spreadsheets can get very lengthy. Unfortunately, if you don't have very many tools available to you that you can easily create and use and that's free, sometimes an Excel sheet is all you got. And so, so bear with me in looking at my spreadsheet. I do apologize in advance. It is kind of lengthy. So I'm going to share with you my screen. And then hopefully you'll be able to see where everything is. First off, I'm going to show you is our tracking sheet. Now, this is a recommendation for our career navigators to use. They've also have adapted it to what their needs are. And so what I have here, I'm going to zoom in for everyone to be able to see. So here you have, up at the top, it has some instructions looking at their educational level, the student's name, instructor's name, class site location, what is their level. There's also counselor note, a section there, brief. And then we're going into the career clusters. You have 16 career clusters. And then over to the right, far right, it asks the question, is this a potential student for ESL for professionals? I also included potential student for an IET or an IETL civics. So there's that information. And I break up the student tracking sheet by provider down below. And then over here further, I have some information, some definitions to help. So the definition of what the career clusters are, what's this legend mean, career cluster 1 all the way through 16, and then over here credential definitions, because these definitions can be it can be a little confusing, especially when you're looking at the differences between a certificate and a certification. And so I have that information here listed, the definitions. And then going over here, instructions about the ESL for our professionals, what they must have, what they must include. So we make a requirement that they have a syllabus that's really important for us to have. And so the syllabus, I'm going to show you as well what the comparison, and you can see its content. Then the other resource that we use, I've provided to our career navigators, is one of them is called ISCO. And so this particular, a lot of people are not very familiar with international standards of classification codes, and that's what ISCO is. It's international jobs across all countries pretty much, and how this is organized is that it corresponds to a stock code here in the United States. So by looking at what the information is from other countries and how that aligns to jobs here in the United States, that can be very beneficial and helpful to students connect to what they used to do back in their native countries to what's similar to that here in the United States. This helps with their career exploration. It helps them with their identification and building their vocabulary about occupation. So this particular spreadsheet, it's from the Bureau of Labor, and it also is found under in UN as well. It comes from the United Nations. And so this information is helpful. And you can toggle this back and forth between a stock code to an international standard code, or you can go back and forth. They give you your choices. The other resource that's related to career clusters, I love this website, and it's called Advanced CTE. So here is the website. Let me see if I can copy and paste it into our chat pod. Here we go. Here is the link there. I'm going to go back to the website. Now with Advanced CTE, this is for your career technical education, and I love CTE programs. I love the resources that they have available, and to be able to not having to recreate the wheel, they have some really good, useful tools out there. So I go straight to where it says Career Technical Education, and where it says Career Clusters Resources. And you see where it says crosswalks. We're going into the crosswalks. Let me, I'm going to zoom in a little bit larger for us to see. Here we go. Down below, you see here where it says the Perkins 4 crosswalks. And you see how it's lined up in different ways. It has the SIP code, it has the OWN, it has the stock code, it has non-traditional career cluster pathways. It has a lot of, these are all spreadsheets, by the way. And so you're able to download it and manipulate the information. So I like table 6 or even table 7. I go back and forth. So when I click on table 6, I'm going to open it. I'm going to allow it. Here we go. Enable editing. I'm also going to make it larger for everyone to see. And you can see here the career cluster information to your far left, and it moves on to career pathways. You have your SIP code, you have your stock code, and then you also have the ONET code as well. And you can change this information around because they give you different choices down below, different tabs that you can play with, and to see the differences and how you manipulate what you're looking for. What I like about this information is that it makes it easier for me to identify career clusters and stock codes and occupations, and what each occupation, which career pathway within that career cluster it belongs to, and it's already been tabulated for you to use. So it's very easy, and it's available on Advanced CTE's website. And that is a national organization here for career technical education, too, if you were wondering who Advanced CTE was. And so I see in the chat pod a few things here. Oh, yes, thank you, Maria. She says, spreadsheets are messy, but you have made that work so beautifully. Thank you, Maria. Could you send that to us by any chance? Yes, I will be happy to send it. And then also, Violetta, yes, please, it would be very helpful to have, yes. And then also, here's the link. I put it in the chat pod so you'll be able to get into it. Now, going back to that WIOA Title I, workforce centers have been paying for GED exams for years. And so a foreign credential service, especially as it's related to employment, is critical. And so just as having a GED is critical for employment. So that's where the rationale is, and it's also where how career counselors at the workforce centers can assist our students. Let's see here. Now, we have to go into what are foreign credential evaluation services, and then what's the difference between translation services. And here's the difference. Translation services is for translating documents from one language into another without applying interpretive judgment. So they're just interpreting the information. They are not looking at its value. Credential evaluation applies interpretation of credentials and determination of the equivalency of educational programs, degrees awarded, and/or grades achieved to U.S. standards. So this is very important to know the difference because there's also a price difference. This is important for you all to know is that there is no governmental authority that approves or certifies foreign educational credential evaluation agencies in the United States. So without having a government regulation or oversight, foreign skilled professionals have a very hard time navigating what higher education institutions will accept or not accept for admission into their programs. So this is one of the reasons why Tarrant County wanted to provide this assistance to our ESL for professional students. And here's some information also here about the two associations that are listed. You have the ACE and you also have NACES. And those links you'll be able to click on, and you'll also find this information from the link here from NAFSA as well. Now, the reason why we have chosen one of the organizations that we have was because they were located on the NACES website. And also our community college accepts it, only from NACES. And one of the things that, because of how difficult it is for our skilled professionals to try to find this information, is that they don't know what questions they should be asking. They know that they need assistance, but they don't know how to ask. And they don't know if the information that they're receiving is of any value. And so these are some key questions. And I know it's pretty long, lengthy questions because it's one question that leads into another question and another question. So one of the things that they first start off with is what kinds of evaluation services does this provider offer? So the question is, do they evaluate for the purposes for secondary education or college, university? Does the organization provide printed information about its scope of its services? And then here's some other questions that I've added. Is the provider affiliated with any organizations or associations supporting international education? That's where the NACES come along and the ACE comes along. And you can see it here. These are some of the organizations that are out there. You have the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers. You have the Association of International Credential Evaluators. There's on and on. So To give you some information about which organizations are out there, this has the information here available to you. What I had encountered once was a student of mine who had tried to go to our local community college. He had already gotten his degree translated, but the organization that he paid was not recognized by the college. So the college told him that he'd have to go to the NACES.org's website, find one of those organizations, and pay for that service again. And that was really heartbreaking to listen to, because the student had paid well over $500 that he lost, basically. Here's some other questions here. How long will it take to get the credentials evaluated? Are we talking 10 business days? Are we talking about 7 days? Are we talking about what are some key things that I'm going to need to know about the fees? So that's where here, what are the evaluation processing fees? Are there different levels, service levels? And this is very true when you're talking about translation services, because translation services charge differently by language that it's being translated into. Some languages cost more than others. What documents does a provider require to complete the evaluation? One of our big concerns for our ESL professional students is those who've been impacted by they're a refugee, or they've come from or they immigrated from a country years ago that was war-torn. So a lot of the universities have been damaged, so they have difficulty in getting their documents. So what are some of the questions for the provider who's going to be doing the evaluation services that I had was, what do you do in those circumstances? How do you still help those students who come from countries where their university is no longer there, or it's damaged to beyond repair? Where other resources do you use, or contacts that you use to validate this information for our students? So that was my question to them. And then here, this is a really important question. Will the evaluation be sent directly to the institution or accepted from the student? Now, a lot of your colleges and universities will not accept it directly from the student. They want it to come directly from the agency that has translated and equivocated it. And I wanted to show you, are there any questions so far?
Mike says, I've had students go to a notary public for translation, not being aware it is just a literal translation of their documents, nothing official.
Yes, definitely, Michael. Thank you. And colleges and universities are looking for something official. They need to have an official document, or they do it in-house. A lot of your major, large public universities will do it in-house. But as a student, as a skilled professional, imagine being in their shoes. Would you know this information when you first arrive to a new country? No, no one knows this information. And it's not really, it's not something that a lot of people talk about openly. And so this is really helpful for us to be able to guide our students, to help navigate them through a process that's complex. It's not easy. And so I wanted to go into how did we choose here in Tarrant County a provider. So our community college only accepts credentials evaluated by organizations listed on NACES. And that's NACES.org is their website. Tarrant County contacted local universities to learn about their process in accepting these credentials. And then also we had found that we wanted International Academic Credential Evaluators Incorporated. They're the nearest company here in North Texas. We don't have any of them listed here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm sorry, Fort Worth area. And here, our Career Pathway Coordinator, which is me, I contacted the organization to establish a partnership and to see what we can do to be more involved. So this is what's being offered by International Academic Credential to us, to Tarrant County. Affordable price. So what we're paying for is only the detailed evaluation, which is for a degree, and the GPA. So the cost currently is only $185 for both of that. Then there's a customized online application that identifies the AEL student, and it also helps for invoicing to Workforce Solutions. So this customized online application, we're directing our ESL for professional students where to go on that website, as well as providing them a paper application to help them prep before they do the online. There's also helpful videos on their website. There's questions, and as well as this information is given to our ESL for Professionals teachers. So our instructors, they're giving this information about the website, the application, and how to navigate through the application process. The other thing here about the translation services is that it's a third-party company that's located on their website, so it's easy for our students to not having to go to another website. They just stay onto that one website to do both the translation services if they're needing to and the application for the credential evaluation. And then finally, a free electronic copy of the student's detailed evaluation that is saved by International Academic Credential. They save an electronic copy. So that way, in case if the student is wanting to contact them again and say, I need you to send this to Tarrant County College, then they'll be able to send it. But I also get a free electronic copy here at the board. We keep a copy of it. Not every single one, because we just recently started not too long ago to where this works. And I like it because I'm able to see that the credentials that our students are having, and then it's a good way for backing up information. So translation services, I had mentioned it earlier about the cost. This is a separate cost with a maximum document page count. Like, for example, here in Tarrant, you're looking at, we had seen the difference in price between different language groups. So we made sure that we put a maximum document page count. So only 4 pages maximum could someone submit their document for translation, their degree for translation. And translation services, honestly, is what causes the cost to go higher. So you do need to have a maximum page count if you're going to be doing that and working that out with that company. I had met with their company, Credential Consultants, and then arranged that as well to make sure we have a maximum, and if anything that goes over that, we will not cover. And then going into what do our students get out of this? Because we can provide something, but if they're not getting anything in return, it's not really worth it. So here's what they get. Credentials are accepted by employers, immigration, military, and higher education institutions. This is what they get. And they also get 1 hard copy of their detailed evaluation with the GPA, 1 saved electronic copy, as I said earlier, and also students are able to transfer their skills into a career field similar to what they did in their native country, or decide to continue to pursue their previous field, which is something else, a current field. Guidance, assistance, our career pathway navigators help the students who are doing their online application, and teachers as well are assisting them too. It's something that needs to be guided. You want to be sure that the students, if they're trying to do this online application at home, to make sure they're aware that it's not an easy application. There's some terminology there that they're going to be unfamiliar with. So having their teacher, their ESL for Professionals teacher there, or their career navigator there to help guide them ensures that they have a smooth application submitted. And here, what did teachers and career pathways get out of it? Well, IACEI came down here in person and did a presentation as well as training with our teachers and our career navigators about the application. They helped answer questions, and they also helped answer some of our needs. And one of our needs was getting a paper application so we can help prep our students for the online application. And so that was something that they accommodated very well. And then also gave traditional ESL teachers the opportunity to offer more to their students in an ESLP class. They were given the PowerPoint as well as a PDF to help them with orientations and classroom instruction as well. The final thing is career navigators are able to work closer with ESL teachers and to recruit these students for IETs. Now here's going back into the structure of the class itself. And then this right here is saying ESLP classes are not traditional ESL classes. In Tarrant County, classes are focused in these specific areas. Career exploration, including occupations requiring licensing or certification to work. career pathways in a career cluster, understanding educational systems, employability skills, career and education planning, employment preparation. And employment preparation, these are some examples, like employment benefits, paychecks, understanding 401k. That's always difficult for anyone to understand. And so a lot of times the employment preparation, those are the skills that's really needed to be able to address and to have students go through some activities with. Using digital resources to conduct the research as well as apply online for the services. And digital resources are like ONET, using ONET in class. Who are the key players? Oh, before I go on to this, I wanted to show you our syllabuses. Here is the syllabus from our Tarrant County College, Community College. So this has information about the introduction, about the course. She broke it down, this instructor broke it down, the objectives of the class, a calendar, attendance and missed work, participation, how their participation will be graded or reviewed, methodology, the materials. Here it has the information about what types of books, the textbooks that are used. So they're using All-Star student book with audio highlights. Also, they're having the workbook and the Burlington English as well. Down below, you have additional resources. And then here is the course content, the calendar, how it's broken up into weeks and the topics. So they first start off in their class understanding what credential evaluation means. What does that mean? How do they, and then later on it goes in deeper about the career exploration. And then understanding about finding and getting a job, communicating with others outside and inside an organization. This is your employability skills here. And down below, there's more information about employment preparation and planning that she's included. There's also a disability statement. So this is from our local community college, their syllabus. And then here is one from our independent school district, Birdville. Same structure. They work together closely and collaborating on syllabus writing, these two professionals, these two instructors. And so it has the same structure. A little bit different towards the end. Here's also this is where it's a little different, is the course content, how they structure their weeks. Okay. And yes, I did see it in the chat pod. If you would like, I see Kia asking a copy of the syllabus would be great. Yes, I'll be happy to share.
Christina, there was another question from Diane, and this might be a question for John or Ann. This says, are we allowed to use any AEL funds to cover the cost of transcript evaluation? So that's a TWC question. And I don't know if, John, you want to come on, or if we just want me to say you might want to contact your program specialist at TWC for more guidance on that. So we'll go ahead and move on and see if John or Ann have a response for us, and they could type that in the chat pod. And we also had somebody else, but I can't find it now. Oh, somebody made a comment. Kia made a comment, and I don't know if you read this one. I've been referring my clients to Spantran, located in Houston, and they're recognized as a credential provider. And someone else mentioned that, yes, that the hospitals accept Spantran evaluations in Houston. Thank you.
That's very helpful to know about your industries, your local industries in your area, because you need to always be able to understand your local companies that are going to be hiring, especially these industries that are major players in hiring. And so especially these industries that our students are interested in going into. So knowing how that is valued, that's very important. We use IACI because it's used by employers as well. So that's more, it's used for multiple, recognized for multiple things. That's the reason why I use it. I wanted to also list here who are some of the key players. When you're trying to bring this together, your class as well as the service provider that you're choosing to establish a more direct relationship with than just referring. This one here is you have a primary contact person that you work with directly at the credential evaluation service provider, and that's the same thing with the translation service provider as well. One person that you're working with directly in order to get the information, as well as looking at cost. You want to be able to negotiate what you're looking at that you're wanting to get for your students. Are you looking at a general evaluation, which is just a high school diploma and below, or are you looking at a degree, which is your detailed evaluation? And also GPA. GPA is a separate cost. Here you have your ESL for professionals teachers. You need your teachers involved in the process starting from the beginning all the way through. They are an important partner in collaborating with. They are important to be able to give us insight and direction as to what students their needs are. And then your career pathway navigators. Your career pathway navigators can be useful tools to help those students along not just with the online application, but they can also give input on occupation clusters. What types of occupations are out there that are showing demand? What are some of those needs? And then also giving them information about hiring, who's hiring, job fairs, any of that information, or other workforce programs. You may have students in your classrooms that would like to be co-enrolled in a workforce program. So your career navigator can be of assistance in all of those areas, and as well as referring them to support services that they may need, like transportation or childcare or clothing for interview clothes or things like that. They'd be able to refer them to those organizations. And then finally, if you have an AEL coordinator or if you have someone in your finance department, that can also help with this structuring of payment and invoicing.
Christina, we had a response from John Stevenson, and he said we probably need to forward that question from the director of a program to the program specialist or contract specialist at TWC so that they could provide more information, do some research and provide more information. So in terms of adult ed programs being able to pay for that, then they may need to contact the TWC program specialist. So thank you.
Thank you. And then here I wanted to show our system, also turnaround time. The turnaround time for a student who submits an online application to the credentialing company, for the company to receive it, to evaluate it, is usually about 10 business days. Either it's between 10 to 14 business days. Then from there, they send an electronic copy to myself, as well as to they also send the hard copy to the student. And then there's a saved electronic copy for the student to later on request to be sent. And then IECA sends the invoice, and then from the invoice it goes straight to our finance department, and then our finance department have our AEL provide transfer of the funds. So this gives you an outline, very straightforward, brief, very straightforward outline here of how this service gets paid for. And I'm getting closer to the finish here. I'm about ready to wrap it up. Are there any questions?
So while we're waiting for questions, I know we have about 8 minutes, so, Christina, that was a great, very informative presentation. We want to thank you so much for your presentation, and please, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask Christina if we have any questions. Okay, we have one. This was very helpful. Are the materials presented here will be mailed directly to participants? No. So if there's any resources, we will place them in the Career Pathways Community of Practice. And normally the PowerPoint does not get sent out because that is available after the session is published for the PD portal. So, and it has to go through an accessibility process. But we do, once we take any resources through the accessibility process, then we will post them in the community of practice, which means, if Christina is willing to share her syllabus, then, or syllabi that she has, then we will post them in the community of practice after they've gone through the accessibility process. Thank you. And then someone says, do your students register for Work in Texas or Apply Texas as part of the course?
For Work in Texas, we haven't gone into that just yet because Work in Texas being revised here very soon. They're going to have a new Work in Texas complete overhaul here soon. The material that's available, the training material, is out there to be able to conduct a class. We may decide to go into Work in Texas registration. work in Texas works best for students who are authorized to work in the United States, though, just to put that out there. The other, for the learning how to apply for college, things like that, those components are talked about in those classes if they're wanting to go back into post-secondary. A lot of students, once they find that their credentials are mostly accepted and they want to go back into their field, they'll need to they have that information available to them about educational systems and what to do. So that gives them information there. Thank you for that question.
We also had a comment from Tracy, and thank you, Tracy, for this. If you'll join the Career Pathways and Program Management Community of Practice in the PD portal, then you will get notifications when something's been posted. So I appreciate that. And then she says that communities of practice are also a great way to ask questions and share information with your colleagues around the state. So thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. And if someone is call-in user number 8, we really need to know. We have about 5 minutes, and we need to know who call-in user number 8 is. So if you can unmute yourself and let us know so that you could get attendance credit. Christopher says lots of great information. Thanks, Christina. Thank you, Christopher.
I have my email address down below, christina.mason@workforcesolutions.net. So if you have any questions, you can always contact me, and I'll be happy to assist. Again, I will have those syllabuses ready to share, those 2 syllabuses, so you'll be able to take a look at, and also the information about the student tracking sheet as well, the spreadsheet. And I do agree, spreadsheets are messy. I very much agree with that. But if you got nothing else to use, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm very happy to share.
We did, Christina and I did have a conversation about the tracking piece, and so we're hoping that if someone has a tracking mechanism that's other than a spreadsheet, then we really, really want to know. We really want people to share that, because if there's something better or something easier, we want to be able to for everybody to have that information. So thank y'all for asking, and if you hear of anybody that has a different tracking mechanism, then we would love to know. Thank you. So we're getting a lot of responses. Great presentation, Christina. We'll get the formal response in writing on using the funding streams to pay for evaluation of credentials. Thank you, Anne. And it says thank you. I'm glad to know more information. Everybody, thank you. Share your ideas in the community of practice. Very good. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Christina. Great presentation as usual, and very informative. Again, we'll entertain questions for a couple of minutes. Thank you, Mike. Thank you all for joining us.